Section 4, the primacy of will. Before expanding on Babbitt's aesthetics, it is necessary to look more closely at his philosophy of will. According to Babbitt, man discovers the essence of reality in ethical action. Such action realizes the ultimate meaning of life, and it is its own reward. Let me give you this line again. According to Babbitt, man discovers the essence of reality in ethical action. Such action realizes the ultimate meaning of life and is its own reward. Over time, sound willing leads to the special satisfaction of happiness. Babbitt admires Plato and Aristotle, especially the latter, but he is critical of the Greek tendency, which has many counterparts in later Western thought, to equate virtue with intellectual knowledge. He sees in Christianity at its best a deeper ethical wisdom, a recognition of the primacy of will, and of the need to undertake a sometimes difficult discipline of the self. In Babbitt's view, Jesus of Nazareth represents the Orient rather than the more intellectualistic West. Jesus does not offer a new philosophy of conduct to be tested on abstract intellectual grounds. He asks men to follow him, to perform Christ-like actions. Genuine morality and religion are, for Babbitt, most importantly, a path of striving. Without entering upon this path of action, and thus undertaking a gradual transformation of character, the individual will not discover the reality of human existence, which is, first of all, a reality of practice. In opposition to theories that tend to treat morality as a problem of reason, Babbitt stresses the human proclivity for moral procrastination, the lethargy of will that keeps the individual from real moral effort. Theorizing about virtue does not bring the individual closer to understanding the reality of happiness unless he also acquires the experience of it in concrete moral action. Philosophizing about the good easily becomes an excuse or a pretext for not getting on with the more difficult task of actually improving oneself. The crux of the ethical life is not achieving a definitive philosophy of the good, but the ability to act on the ethical insight one does have. With the exercise of goodwill and the resulting strengthening of character, the individual's sense of reality and meaning deepens. Theoretical doubts about the existence of the universal good that beset the morally deficient and passive person begin to dissolve. Babbitt sees the Christian notion of the incarnation as contributing to solving the problem of knowledge and ethical manners. Quote, "The final reply to all the doubts that torment the human heart is not some theory of conduct, however perfect, but the man of character." Unquote. The person of good action embodies and verifies in himself the reality of the eternal good. It might be commented that Babbitt's emphasis on will suggests a Protestant rather than a Roman Catholic influence. It should be pointed out that Babbitt sees strengths and weaknesses in both of these orientations, and that he maintains a certain detachment from both. He didn't accept either of them. His consideration of ethical and religious questions draws on a large number of different sources, including ones from outside the Christian sphere. It is also worth noting that the rationalistic bias represented by Thomism is but one of the strains within Catholicism. Which should be stressed, however, is that while Babbitt gives preeminence to will in the ethical and religious life, he is critical of voluntaristic theologies, including those of Augustine, Luther, and Calvin, which make man so dependent on the divine will, that he becomes virtually a puppet of God. In general, Babbitt is unsympathetic to Christian doctrines that tend to undermine moral effort, but he is sympathetic to doctrines that encourage the individual to, quote, work out his own salvation, while inducing humility. The result and justification of moral action, Babbitt argues, is happiness, a special satisfaction that must not be confused with moments of mere pleasure. The result and justification of specially religious the result and justification of specifically religious striving is a peace that passeth, I know I screwed that up, a peace that passeth all understanding. The result and justification of specifically religious striving is a peace that passeth all understanding. In both cases, the ultimate meaning of human existence becomes known to man in the concrete, in the life actually lived. What is meant by happiness or peace cannot be understood by anyone lacking in personal experience of virtuous action. The happy life of the mean, described by Aristotle in Nicomachean Ethics, is not achieved simply through philosophical deliberation, but primarily through ethical effort that gradually shapes sound character. It's not achieved simply through philosophical deliberation, but primarily through ethical effort that gradually shapes sound character. Wow, what a great line. Volumes of good ethical philosophy will mean little unless the terms employed find reference in the personal life of the reader and help him to better understand his own. The following statement about religion can be applied to all ethical self-understanding. Knowledge in matters religious waits upon will.